What is identity theft? It describes a crime in which a criminal uses the identity of an unknown innocent person. If the thief gets credit card number, they buy expensive items or they can sell numbers to others who use them. If they don't get the credit card number, they use other information, for example, your name, social security address, to open new accounts in the victim's name. Identity thieves take out loans, buy groceries, read the victim's bank account, pass bad checks, or use the victim's identity in various other ways for financial gain. In one scam, thieves used name and social security numbers of almost 2,000 people and applied for their tax refund. Each year, the Federal Trade Commission receives hundreds of thousands of complaints of identity theft. Losses from identity thefts amount to billions of dollars per year in the United States, affecting millions of victims. A single incident can affect thousands of people. For example, two US grocery chains reported that the data thieves planted malware in their computer system of their stores and gained access to more than 4 million credit and debit cards number. The malware sent the data to a server outside the United States. Almost 2,000 cases of fraud resulted. Credit card companies and other businesses bear the direct cost of more credit card fraud, but the losses lead to higher charges to consumers. In addition, individual victims might lose a good credit rating, be prevented from borrowing money or cashing checks, but unable to get a job or be unable to rent an apartment. A security company executive says a complete identity sells for less than $20. There are many tactics used for identity theft and credit and debit card fraud. Some of the techniques used to steal information are phishing, smishing, phishing, farming, and skimming. The fraudulent practice of sending emails or text messages or making a voice call purporting to be from reputable companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information such as passwords, credit card numbers, social security numbers, etc. These are called phishing in case of sending emails. In case of text messages, it is called smishing, and in case of voice call, it is called phishing. Have you ever received email or text messages from PayPal, Amazon, or any bank asking you to confirm information about your account? Have you received email from IRS telling you the agency has a tax refund for you? These are the example of scam. The message tells the victim to click on a link to what purports to be a website of a well-known bank or online company. This is actually a phony site. This phony site asks for account number, password, and other identifying information. Identity thieves take advantage of our knowledge that there's a lot of online fraud. Several pretexts that appear frequently in phishing or PayPal account, and you need to respond to determine whether someone else is misusing your account. Some messages tell the recipient that they just made a very big purchase, and if the purchase was not really theirs, they should click a link to cancel the order. In a panic, people do and enter their identifying information when asked for it. Next technique is farming, the fraudulent practice of directing internet user to a bogus website that mimics the appearance of a legitimate one in order to obtain personal information such as password, account numbers, etc. is called farming. Normally, when we indicate a website we want to visit, our browser looks up the IP address of the site on one of the many domain name servers, special computers on the internet for this purpose. Farming involves planting false internet addresses in the table on a DNS that lead the browser to a counterfeit site set up by identity thieves. However, crypting a DNS is more difficult than sending a huge number of phishing emails, so it is much less common than phishing. Here you can see two domain names that looks like a Facebook, but if you see the second website has zero instead of O. So this is an example of farming. Another popular technique to steal information is skimming. Skimming allows identity thieves to capture information from a cardholder that can be used for making fraudulent transactions. Some fraudsters may simply photocopy or take digital photos of information that can be used fraudulently. Other more advanced technology also exists. Using a device called a skimmer is a popular approach. Skimmers are technological devices that can be built for use in many different situations. At brick and mortar locations, a fraudster can use a small skimming device that allow them to swipe a card and obtain information from its magnetic strip. Some skimmer may also include a touchpad that allow the thief to enter a security code. Thieves can also build skimming devices that can be used at ATMs and other point of sale locations such as gas station, restaurant, and stores. Skimming devices can be installed on an ATM with camera or overlay touchpads also added to capture individual personal identification numbers.
Response to identity theft. Authenticating websites, email programs, web browsers, search engines, and ads on software, some free, can alert users to likely fraud. Some email programs will alert the user if the actual web address that a link will take you to is different from one that is displayed in the text of a message. Some browsers and add-on softwares used with browsers and search engines will flag websites they consider safe or show alerts for sites known to collect and misuse personal information. Authenticating consumers and preventing use of stolen numbers. How can such businesses distinguish the real account owner from an identity tape armed with a stolen account number and other commonly used identifying information? Some sites store an identification number for the customer's home computer or laptop, then verify the machine used when the customer logs in. Some ask the customer to provide extra information when the account is first opened, then ask for some of that information at login. Some ask the customer to select from the group of several images when the account is opened, then require the customer to identify the image at login. Some security firms offer more sophisticated authentication software using artificial intelligence techniques. The software calculates a risk score based on variation from the time of a day a customer usually logs in, the type of the browser regularly used, the customer's typical behavior and transaction, and so on. In 2006, a Russian man using a company located in one country and registered in another bought stock and then broke into many people's online brokerage accounts and bought the same stock through those accounts. The large number of purchases pushed the price up and the man sold his at a profit. reducing, reducing the damage of identity theft. Laws requiring that companies and state government agencies notify people of breaches of their personal information give potential victims the opportunity to take a variety of protective measures. The most common measure is a fraud alert. Fraud alert is a flag on your credit record that tells the credit bureau to call you for confirmation when anyone tries to open a new credit account, for example, for a car loan or credit card in your name. Reducing the incidence of fraud by identity theft requires continually evolving methods for authenticating the parties on both sides of the transaction. It requires appropriate and evolving responses from merchants, financial institutions, credit card companies, the public, the programmers, and entrepreneurs who develop technical protection and services, and the government agency whose documents we use for identification. Along with the time and technology, new environments are being created for fraud, theft, stock malfunction, forgery, and many old and new scams. Hacking is an unintentional and unauthorized access to the computer system, which includes a wide range of activities from minor pranks to huge steps and shutdowns of services on which our life may also depend. Such crimes committed with computing is very devastating and harder to detect and could cost a lot of more than physical theft or robbery. With each country having different rules and laws, it is very difficult to deal with the violation and arresting the violators. Most of the people think hacker as an irresponsible and destructive criminal. However, it is important to know what is hacking and who is a hacker. So the term hacking till late has got a lot of meanings throughout the period of time. Um, Based upon the term hacking was defined, we have three phases. The phase one is the early years, which is 1960 to 1970, when hacking was used to be a positive term. Phase two is from 1970 to 1990, when hacking took on more negative meanings. And phase three is the beginning of mid 1990s, with the growth of web and e-commerce and the participation of a large portion of general public online. It got mixed reaction. Phase 1 started early, like around 1960, and ended till 1970, when hacking used to be a very positive term. Hacker used to be a creative programmer. It reflected the high level of skills and clever programming among the people. Hundreds of people gathered for a long day hackathons to work intensely at developing new and innovative software products. Phase 2 started as early as 1970 to 1990s, when hacking took more on the negative sides. As more people started using computers, the term became more negative. Hacking that time got the meaning that we have in the today's world, that is breaking into computers for which the hacker doesn't have authorized access, including spreading the computer viruses. Significant thefts and frauds joined the list of hacking activities in the 1980s and 1990s. For example, a Russian man with accomplices in several countries used stolen passwords to steal 400,000 from Citicorp. He transferred another 11 million US dollars to bank accounts in other countries. Phase 3 is the phase that we are in. It started beginning in the mid 1990s. The wide use of mobile devices, internet, emails, and other web services made hacking more dangerous and damaging. For example, pranksters modified the US Department of Justice web page to read Department of Injustice in protest of Communications Deficiency Act. They changed the CIA's site read to read Central Stupidity Agency and added links to pornography site. Hackers continue to execute pranks and revenge attacks, which of them are quite expensive. Hackers attacked companies that criticize or withdraw services from WikiLeaks. As social network grew, they also became the target of hackers, like Facebook account being hacked these days. Hacking of mobile devices has not been a major problem yet, but using clouds to store all the data, it seems to be an attractive target for the hackers today. Uncertainty causes harm or expense. Even if hackers have no destructive events, hacking of mobile devices has not yet been a major problem, but using cloud to store all the data seems to be a very next attractive target. Almost all hacking is a form of trespass. Hackers with non malicious intentions should not be surprised that others will often not view them kindly. And this is true for most of the hackers around the world. Hacktivism or political hacking. Hacktivism is the use of hacking. Hacktivism or political hacking. Hacktivism is the use of hacking to promote a political cause. In this case, the hacker is motivated by a political cause. For example, someone posted a pro-dog message on a police department anti-dog website. Also, teenagers hacked into the network of an atomic research center in India and downloaded files to protest India's test of nuclear weapons. A fundamental problem with evaluating political hacking is that it can be hard to identify people who agree with the political or social position of the hackers will tend to see as an activism, while those who disagree will tend to see it as an ordinary crime. From both an ethical and social perspective, in free countries where almost anyone can tweet or post their words and videos on the web for free, it is hard to justify hacking someone else's site to promote a political cause. Hacking acts as a security researchers. There is a subculture that some hackers who probe computer systems usually without permission to find the security flaws as an intellectual exercise or a public service call themselves security researchers. They face ethical dilemmas like is it ethical to break into a system without permission, even with good intentions? For example, like the security researcher who found that some smartphones sent location and ID data to Google and Apple. They face ethical dilemmas like is it ethical to break into a computer system without permission, even with good intentions? Exposing security flaws is not a legitimate justification for most hacking, but as a side effect, it does sometimes speed up security improvements. As software companies, financial companies, and online retailers began taking security more seriously, some began treating well intentioned hackers as allies rather than enemies. Hacking as foreign policy. Hacking by governments for economic and military espionage and to disable hacking as foreign policy. Hacking by governments for economic and military espionage and to disable enemies has increased dramatically in the past few years. The first cyber attack, apparently coordinated with a military attack, occurred in 2008 when the Russian military moved into Georgia. The Georgian government websites were attacked and some disabled. Internet security experts and the Georgian government thought it very likely that the Russian government was responsible. The source of the attack could not be definitely determined, which is a frequent problem with cyber attacks. It is difficult to prove if any cyber attacks coming from a country has government involved in them. However, the nature and sophistication of the attacks, as well as the type of the target, leads security researchers to believe that they are the work of the government agency, not in civilian hackers. The work of foreign governments poses a huge threat to safety and national security. The Pentagon announced that it would consider and treat some cyber attacks as acts of war, and the United States might respond with military force. Therefore, the targeted country must be aware and determine if there is foreign governments or terrorist organizations involvement in the attack and the prevention to do it. Hacking as a security. A variety of factors contribute to security weaknesses inherent in complexity of computer systems, speed at which new applications develop, economic and business factors, or human nature. In its early days, the internet was primarily a communications medium for researchers. The internet was not designed for security against malicious intruders, teenage explorers, or organized crimes. Hacking. In 1998, the U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary described a series of attacks on numerous U.S. military computers as the most organized and systematic attack the Pentagon had seen to date. Two boys aged 16 and 17 had carried them out. Foreign governments are replacing teenagers as the major threat to defense systems. Their resources and expertise far surpass those of teenagers. In 2011, the Deputy Defense Secretary said that in the previous decade, intruders stole plans to aircraft, avionics, satellite communication and navigation systems, network security protocols, missiles tracking systems, and surveillance drones and jet fighters. Hacking as a catching and punishing hackers. Congress passed the main federal computer crime law, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act (CFAA) in 1984. Under the CFAA, it is illegal to access a computer without authorization or to exceed one's authorization. Sections of the law addressing altering, damaging, or destroying information and interference with authorized use of a computer, denial of service attacks, computer viruses, and other malicious programs. Hacking, catching, and punishing hackers. The CFAA is the main anti hacking law, but prosecutors also use the federal law to prosecute people for crime related to computer and telecommunication systems, access to commit fraud, disclosing passwords or other accesses, interrupting or impairing government operations, public communication, transportation, and public utilities. The Patriot Act expanded the definition of loss to include the cost of responding to a hacking attack, assessing damages, and restoring systems. It raised the maximum penalty in the CFAA for a first offense to 10 years. Law enforcement, law enforcement, inform, enforcement agencies employ people who are well informed about the technical aspects of hacking and the hacker culture. Read hacker newsletters, catching hackers. mm, those techniques can be included like participation in online discussion of hacks, sometimes undercover, attends hacker conference, maintains logs of chats, channels used by hackers, honeypots, wiretaps, discover hackers because they boast about their totally awesome skills. Punishments. Young hackers under 18 years of age usually get probation for their crimes. Don't want to take a hardened criminal, turn into a productive members of society. Punishment to set an example versus punishment to send a message. Reward these kids with jobs or give them extreme sentence to deter others. When digital actions cross borders. Certain things you do on the internet is one country have, can have legal issues in another. One example is when an American citizen was arrested and sentenced to jail for more than 2 years because he translated and posted parts of a critical biography of a king which was banned. Another example is of a Dutch man who made a critical film of Islam while he was in the Netherlands, which is legal, and was later charged with blasphemy in Jordan, which made it harder for him to travel. One main point to help prevent this situation was to have the provider make content that is illegal in certain countries not accessible in those countries. The United States arrested a British citizen and several CEOs of an online gambling company that was from England. The United States claimed that most of their customers were from America and the online gambling is illegal in America. Libel speech in commercial law. Michael Jackson was described as hideously disfigured in one British newspaper, and Jackson was able to successfully sue them for libel because England had stricter libel law. Note that this will not be the same in the case of the United States because the law is different here. In England, it is illegal to publish information that might damage the defendant's case before a trial. To combat this, the New York Times used geolocation tools to block people in England from reading this article. Certain countries ban certain advertisements that they find immoral or misleading. Some people view libel law as a threat to freedom of speech. Since England had such strict libel laws, it has led a phenomenon called libel tourism. This is essentially where people are successfully suing certain companies on the basis of libel. Since libel laws in England are so tough, it has actually led to people cancelling their works and writing for fear of getting sued.
International agreements help smooth over what national laws cannot do, as some countries have differences in what they do and do not allow on the web. Countries in the World Trade Organization agree not to prevent sales of products or services to the people of their country as long as their laws do not ban said products or services. This is an international agreement with the goal of facilitating fair trade. Aside from international agreements, there are also two categories of interaction between different countries: authority to prevent entry and responsibility to prevent access. So, responsibility to prevent access means that a country who provides a service that is illegal in another, say Facebook in the United States and China. China has made Facebook illegal, but America has not. If they were using responsibility to prevent access, that would mean that Facebook has a responsibility to prevent people from China from accessing their site. Authority to prevent entry, however, is a little bit different. It doesn't try to overstep the boundaries of one nation into another. And it's really easy to explain this in an example. We'll use Facebook again. With authority to prevent entry, Facebook has no obligation in regards to China. However, China has the authority to prevent access to Facebook for its citizens. Another example that was listed in the book is that during the Cold War, the Soviet Union would jam radio broadcasts from non-communist states. They did not have any authority to tell those other countries who were not under their control what they can and cannot broadcast on the radio, so they took it into their own hands to prevent their people from hearing the broadcast. ATPE is largely regarded as less restrictive and as reducing the impact of a country on others. The United States of America and France do not currently follow ATPE. However, their adoption of it would allow it to become much more popular. A major shortcoming, however, of ATPE is that countries with poor cybersecurity laws become a nesting ground for criminals. A country that does not punish hackers properly can lead to victims in other countries with no authority and no power or any access to retribution against said scammers.